If you want to get your hands on a copy of Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, Avowed, Assassin's Creed Shadows, and many more, check out the pinned comment down below. Embarking on a journey across the vast and treacherous seas of Pillars of Eternity 2 Deadfire, Obsidian Entertainment invites players to hoist their sails and set course through an RPG rich with promise and ambition. Deadfire aims to redefine the boundaries of its predecessor with an enhanced visual palette, fully voiced dialogue, and innovative gameplay elements. Yet for all its aspirations, the voyage is not without its perils. Pillars of Eternity 2 Deadfire whisks players away to the exotic and tumultuous archipelago of the Deadfire, a vast network of islands teeming with adventure, intrigue, and conflict. As a direct sequel to the illustrious predecessor, it attempts to not only expand on the geographical horizons of its world, but also to deepen the narrative complexity, promising an engaging story of gods, mortals, and the seas that hold them together. The narrative begins with a cataclysmic event. The god Eothas, once thought defeated, awakens beneath the player's stronghold, destroying it and absorbing the souls of the fallen. This act sets the stage for the chase across the archipelago, with players in pursuit of the rogue deity to demand answers and justice. This premise is rife with potential, blending classic themes of vengeance and divine intrigue with the promise of a richly detailed setting. The Deadfire archipelago itself is a vibrant and diverse setting, vastly different from the Eurocentric environments typical of the genre. The islands boast lush jungles, treacherous volcanic islands, and bustling port towns, each brimming with life and color. Obsidian's commitment to world building is evident in the meticulous detail of each location, from the cultural practices of the native Huana tribe to the colonial ambitions of the trading companies vying for control of the region. The game layers these elements to create a narrative backdrop that is both visually and thematically rich. However, the narrative ambition of Deadfire is both its sail and its anchor. The story attempts to weave numerous subplots and character arcs into the main storyline, creating a tapestry of narratives that can sometimes feel overwhelming. Players navigate complex political intrigue amongst the native factions, colonial powers, and pirate lords, all while dealing with the whims and machinations of the pantheon of gods that have their own agendas. The player's actions and decisions influence these dynamics, offering a sense of agency, but also a daunting level of complexity that can dilute the central narrative thrust. One of the major challenges the story faces is its pacing and integration. While the main quest compellingly pushes the player to track down Eothas, many of its side quests and factional disputes feel disjointed, as if they were mere distractions rather than an integral part of the story. This can leave players feeling detached from the overall narrative, as they are pulled into multiple directions by competing interests that don't always cohere into a meaningful whole. Moreover, the handling of the gods in the narrative can sometimes undermine the gravitas of the storyline. The deities intended to be majestic and indestructible often come across as petty and all too human in their squabbles and scheming. This portrayal diminishes their mystique and can reduce the epic scope of the narrative to something more akin to a mundane melodrama. Despite these narrative shoals, Deadfire shines when it embraces its role-playing roots, offering players meaningful choices that impact the world and its inhabitants. The moral complexities of colonialism, the freedom to support or undermine different factions, and the weight of decisions that affect the fate of entire communities all serve to enrich the player's engagement with the story. Each choice ripples throughout the archipelago, affecting everything from political outcomes to personal relationship with companions, making the narrative journey throughout Deadfire as rewarding as it is challenging. The story of Deadfire is not just about chasing a god across the sea. It's a deep dive into cultures and conflicts of its world. Duana, with a complex caste system and deep-rooted traditions, offers a fascinating glimpse into the challenges of perceiving one's culture against external pressures. Their interactions with the player are nuanced, reflecting varying degrees of acceptance and resistance to outside influences. Meanwhile, the trading companies, respecting colonial interests, are not merely antagonists. They are multifaceted organizations with their own internal conflicts and ambitions. The Royal Deadfire Company and the Valiant Trading Company each have their own agendas, which often conflict with those of the native population. These conflicts present the player with difficult choices: align with one of the powers, support the native Huana, or perhaps forge an independent path. Pirates add another layer of complexity to the setting, embodying freedom and lawlessness of the Deadfire. They challenge the colonial powers and disrupt the existing power structure, making them both a threat and potential ally for players. Their charismatic leader, Captain Furante, is a particularly memorable character, embodying the ruthlessness yet honorable nature of pirate life. Eothas, the god who sets the narrative in motion, is a compelling character whose motivations are both mysterious and tragic. His actions are catastrophic, yet they are driven by a desire to rectify past injustices and challenge the other gods. This moral ambiguity makes Eothas a complex figure, and players' interactions with him are amongst the most impactful moments of the game. These encounters raise questions about the nature of divinity, the ethics of power, and the right of mortals to challenge their creators. In PoE 2 Deadfire, the enhancements in audio and graphical fidelity are among the most noticeable improvements, offering an immersive experience that significantly builds upon the groundwork laid by its predecessor. These enhancements not only contribute to the depth of the game's storytelling, but also greatly enhance its atmospheric qualities, drawing players deeper into the vast and varied landscape of the Deadfire archipelago. The leap in graphical quality from the first game is immediately apparent, showcasing Obsidian's commitment to pushing the envelope of visual presentation within the CRPG genre. Character models receive a substantial upgrade also, with finer textures and more complex animations that breathe life into the friends and foes encountered throughout the adventure. Environmental graphics, too, have been markedly improved, with dynamic lighting effects that accentuate the lush verdant jungles and the shadowy corners of mysterious dungeons. Such enhancements not only beautify the game, but also enhance the player's ability to immerse themselves in a world that feels alive and responsive. However, the graphical improvements are not without its inconsistencies. While dungeons and character animations impress, some of the game's outdoor environments suffer from less attention to detail. Certain textures, particularly those of natural landscapes like mountain grass, appear out of sync with their surroundings, breaking the visual cohesion. This disparity is most noticeable in urban areas, where the ground textures and some elements like water effects can seem jarringly low quality compared to the high standard set by other aspects of the game's visual design. The urban environments, while architecturally varied and interesting, occasionally suffer from these graphical inconsistencies that can detract from the overall aesthetic achievement. For example, the bustling port cities with their complex structures and crowded marketplaces should be visual highlights, but are sometimes let down by flat textures and odd visual artifacts. These issues, while not game-breaking, can momentarily pull players out of an otherwise engrossing experience, reminding them of the game's digital confines. Audio-wise, Deadfire makes a bold move with its nearly comprehensive voice acting. Every major conversation and many minor interactions are fully voiced, providing a level of auditory immersion that is rare in games of this scope. The voice performances are generally strong, with actors bringing a range of emotions and subtleties to each character, enhancing the narrative depth and helping build the connections between the player and the game's cast. But it should also be noted that the extensive voice acting also introduces challenges, primarily related to pacing. The sheer volume of dialogue can slow gameplay considerably, a potential hindrance for players who prefer a brisker narrative pace. This issue is compounded by the fact that the act of listening to dialogue can take considerably longer than reading it would, potentially adding hours to the total playtime. While the voice acting enriches the story, it also demands patience from players who must be willing to engage with the game at its intended narrative speed. The game's soundscape is enriched by a dynamic musical score and well-designed environmental sounds that reflect the diverse setting of the Deadfire archipelago. The rustling of leaves, the crash of ocean waves, and the bustling noises of city life all serve to create a believable and captivating world. The music, with its thematic variations, underscores the drama of the narrative and the tension of combat, enhancing the emotional and atmospheric impact of key story moments. Obsidian Entertainment ambitiously expands the gameplay mechanics, introducing several major innovations and enhancements designed to deepen the player's interaction with the game world. These changes range from navigational freedom and complex ship management to redefined combat systems and intricate character development through multiclassing. Each aspect contributes to a more immersive and customizable player experience, though not without a set of challenges that occasionally disrupt the game's balance and accessibility. One of the most significant gameplay evolutions in Deadfire is the introduction of a fully navigatable overworld, represented through the player's ship, which serves as both a home base and a means of exploration. This new feature allows players to traverse the expansive archipelago of the Deadfire, discovering hidden coves, secret islands, and encountering random maritime events. The freedom to explore at one's own pace adds a palatable sense of adventure and discovery that is deeply satisfying. Now, while the concept of ship navigation promises a thrilling addition to the game, the reality of its execution often falls short of its expectations. Ship management involves the managing of resources like food and water, handling crew morale, and upgrading ship components to enhance combat capabilities. While these elements aim to provide depth, they can sometimes feel more like cumbersome chores than enriching gameplay elements. The mechanics of ship-to-ship combat are particularly underwhelming. Battles are conducted through a series of menu-based choices that lack the dynamic action one might expect from pirate engagements, leading to encounters that feel static and disconnected from the otherwise immersive world. Deadfire's combat continues to rely on a real-time with pause system that allows players to strategically control the battlefield. The introduction of a more detailed AI customization tool gives players the option to set specific behaviors for their party members, with the intent of reducing the need for constant micromanagement. This is a welcome improvement for those who find continuous pause and play tactics tedious, but also introduces issues with balancing and difficulty, as overly efficient AI can trivialize combat encounters. The challenge and excitement of combat is further influenced by the game's approach to difficulty scaling. Initially, battles are engaging and require tactical finesse, especially when confronting enemies with unique abilities and resistances. However, as the game progresses, the difficulty curve flattens dramatically. Players might find themselves breezing through the encounters that should pose significant challenge, undermining the satisfaction derived from tactical gameplay. This issue is compounded by an uneven implementation of level scaling, which doesn't consistently adjust the powers of enemies to match the player's level, leading to a lack of challenge in the latter parts of the game. Deadfire also introduces multiclassing, allowing player characters to combine two of the game's 11 base classes, creating a hybrid class with access to abilities from both. This system greatly expands the customization options available to players, enabling a myriad of unique character builds that can significantly alter one's engagement with combat and exploration. The multi-class system is thoughtfully designed, offering players the exciting possibilities to mix and match abilities that suit their playstyle. However, this freedom also introduces complexities in balancing. Some combinations of classes can become overwhelmingly effective, overshadowing the viability of a single class character. Conversely, other combinations might result in dilution of effectiveness, with characters unable to access the most powerful abilities locked behind single class progression. Balancing these options to provide a fair yet challenging experience is a continuous struggle, evident in the varied effectiveness of the different class combinations across the different stages of the game. The enhanced AI control options in Deadfire aim to alleviate some of the micromanagement required in combat by allowing players to preset actions and behaviors. This development is particularly beneficial for players who prefer a more streamlined combat experience or those who find the constant pausing to issue commands disruptive to their immersion in the game. While the AI setting can simplify combat, the effectiveness of those automations vary. In simpler encounters, the AI can completely handle threats, allowing the player to focus more on overarching strategy rather than minute-to-minute tactics. However, in more complex battles, where positioning and specific ability use is crucial, the AI's limitations become apparent. The inability of the AI to fully grasp and react to dynamic combat scenarios means that for most challenging encounters, manual control remains the most effective approach. While discussing gameplay mechanics, it's crucial to address the technical aspects that support them. Deadfire is ambitious in its scope and mechanical depth, but it is occasionally hindered by technical issues such as bugs and performance inconsistencies. These can range from minor graphical glitches to more severe bugs that affect gameplay, such as AI pathfinding errors or issues with quest progression triggers. While not ubiquitous, their presence is significant enough to warrant mention, as they can disrupt gameplay and immersion. So, what is my final conclusion on the game? Well, Pillars of Eternity 2 Deadfire is a game that sets sail with high ambitions but frequently struggles to navigate through those rough waters of its own aspiration. While it does showcase significant improvements in graphics and attempts to innovate with its gameplay mechanics, the overall execution often falls short of its promise. The story, while grandiose, lacks cohesion, and the extensive voice acting, while impressive in scope, tends to drag down the pace. For fans of the original Pillars of Eternity and enthusiasts of deep text-heavy RPGs, Deadfire offers a journey worth taking, providing that you can overlook its rougher patches. For those seeking a tightly paced narrative and refined gameplay mechanics, it may be advisable to wait for calmer seas. Notwithstanding that, Deadfire remains a worthy expedition for the patient and forgiving gamer, rich in potential but marred by the tempest of its own ambition. Whether it will stand the test of time as a venerable sequel remains to be seen, but it certainly adds a noteworthy chapter to the evolving saga of Obsidian CRPG endeavors. And of course, thank you so much for watching. Please remember to like, subscribe, and leave a comment down below and get your hands on one of the games that are up for grabs. But until I see you again, stay nerdy.